Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Multiverse to Earth 616 to nowhere in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. Volume 141. We've got a lot of interesting rumors to discuss this week. If we're comparing news stories for the week, DC, you win.
I get home from work earlier today, and I took a shower, and I'm just kind of like, thinking about tonight's show. Like, I'd reviewed the show notes and stuff again,
Yep.
Made sure you didn't make any changes I didn't already know about, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, this show, like, it's kind of a low moment for us news-wise, in the sense of, like, it's slow, not low. Slow is what I mean, right? Like, we got some stuff to talk about. We have some interesting stuff, especially with, one particular show that we were both very excited for. But we don't have that much in the grand scheme of things to what's going on the other side of the street over there.
No.
Because holy cow, and all I can say is, more power to you, Travis and Joe. I look forward to hearing what you have to say next week.
Yeah, it is interesting, to say the least, and it just keeps on getting you dig deeper and deeper. So
Right? Like, just more and more stuff keeps coming, and I'm like, okay, this is just, where's my popcorn?
I know, exactly. But so our news stories this week is like I said, more rumor filled, but definitely a lot of possibilities that we could discuss. But how was your week this week?
No, it's pretty good. I can't complain overall. I'm on the hopefully tail end of a sinus infection. Yes, that is all it is, confirmed. But other than that, I really can't complain. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Next couple of weeks are going to be busy, as the holidays tend to be. But I'm looking forward to it, and it's kind of weird. I'm actually not glad that we don't have a show right now to get up in the middle of the week for. But Marvel is just like, let me get every last minute of sleep I can, and then I'll look forward to Mando in March, and who knows, maybe something sooner from Marvel, but probably not. I don't know. But right now, doing good. What about you?
Yep, we've got coming to the end of this week. We got one more full week left of school, so we're putting it through. Had some good stuff happen at work today, so. So far, good week, busy week, and but yeah, happy we're coming to the end of it. But let us get through these lovely network plugs before we get into the news of the week. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule of our shows, take a look at our show notes below, and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at you can find that at GUA Pod Network, so you know when every single show drops on your feeds. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers: our $1 tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our show We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MC Rewatch. 11 episodes on there. Our most recent one, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, has dropped. And Brent and I are getting ready to record next week Volume 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy, on top of the other Groot episodes that we'll kind of talk about again at that point. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll be watching it this weekend.
Yeah, we watched it last weekend. Watched the rest of the Groot shorts, which they still make me laugh. But
they're delightful.
We watched those. We watched Guardians. It's been a very, very Guardians heavy couple months for us, but if anything, it's just made me more excited for Volume 3.
Exactly. So, but we've also got Joe's Multiverse Minutes. We've got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC Through the Years rewatch, and Clay's for the first time. We're looking at Game of Thrones. Katie looking at the canon, non-canon books of Star Wars with her husband. So patrons, we hope you're enjoying the content. We cannot do this without your support, but if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you can take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever podcatcher choice may be, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, shipped around the world. We got 7 more days in order to lock in your pre-orders for some of these Marvel books, including Ultimate X-Men Omnibus Volume 2. Again, this is fortuitous. Marvel Zombibus coming back into print for the very first time in over a decade plus. So a lot of great stuff on there. Immortal Hulk Omnibus as well. So check that out and use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. It lets them know you're a listener. And we want to thank Organic Price Books for being our official sponsor. All right, Brent. So we are starting off with, like I said, an interesting, kind of the business world creeping into Marvel Studios at this point with what's been going on with Disney. And as our background kind of emulates looking at the, our phase 4 kind of lineup at that point. But title of this coming from the Cosmic Circus, Marvel reportedly unhappy with phase 4, considering major changes to phase 5 through 6 slate. So earlier in the last week, Deadline reported that Disney would be going under some major restructuring with returning CEO Bob Iger taking back the helm, making a lot of course corrections and evaluating where, not necessarily cutting costs, but also seeing where they can make some changes that will end up moving out of the red and into the black. So a new report from the Cosmic Circus, their sources have revealed that Marvel Studios might be facing some changes as a part of Iger's return. And seeing how Phase 4 has been a mixed bag with fans and critics at that point. Some really high points, some really and one, depending on who you talk to, some low points for the MCU. According to the Cosmic Circus and their outlet sources, Marvel themselves have picked up on those worries. And so now, as a preventative measure to assure quality control, both Marvel and Disney are reevaluating the future releases of Phase 5 and Phase 6 that are not already in production. Their sources say that Marvel Studios is hoping to hammer an in-quality over quantity take on its future projects to avoid the issues that they faced with Phase 4. They note that one move could be being considered by Marvel and Disney is to develop a sort of creative oversight on the MCU's future releases in order to establish more quality control moving forward. They also reiterated that they heard that the special presentations are gaining more traction behind the scenes as a medium to deliver more potential projects moving forward. And so any changes right now might come towards the end of Phase 5, they're saying, more so happening in Phase 6. But, it's, reading this stuff, this doesn't surprise me a lot. Especially, this was the first phase where they had Disney Plus. This was a way for them to push content out in a different way. And can I fault them necessarily for one might consider to be, wow, 3 series, 4, what have we averaged? 3 series each past 2 years?
I was actually just getting ready to pull up my list of Phase 4, and my phone would cooperate because it is a lot. Like Phase 4 is 3, 4, 5, 18 projects, assuming I didn't miss any there. And looking at those, 9 of those came out. I mean, basically, like they're averaging 9 projects, movies and TV shows. Because Phase 4 started in January of 2021 with WandaVision, and now we're at the end of 2022 with Guardians Holiday Special, and we've got 9 projects between them. And even I will admit, who loves all of this stuff, and while, like you just heard me say, like I'm kind of glad right now that we don't have a show just so I don't need to get up, super early or whatever to try and watch it. And yeah, sure, that's my choice. I don't want to be spoiled. That's fine. In general, I will always err on the side of yes, give me the content. But I do feel like they are overextending themselves to a bit, or overextending the audience to a bit. I have had good friends who watch all of this stuff tell me they just can't keep up. It's too much. And so they're only going to watch the movies. Maybe they'll check out a individual episode of a show like, say, the Daredevil episode of She-Hulk. But in general, they're only going to watch the movies because that's about all they have time for. I think they are kind of overextending themselves. I hope some of that's back. But yeah, so you how many projects? We're 18 in. And to be clear, that does count I Am Groot, which, is 20 minutes long. But
Yeah,
it is still something that Marvel Studios put out.
All in the game saying, evening, gentlemen, even as a big MCU fan, been saying less is more for a while. Yeah, I mean, again, I can't necessarily fault them for saying, okay, we have this new way to deliver content. Let's let's go all in and see how it works. Starting off with WandaVision, I mean, that first year, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and what am I forgetting?
First year, Loki.
Loki. So, I mean, that was a pretty
and Hawkeye.
Big, what's that?
And
Hawkeye, yeah.
Was
so,
in the
so
first year.
four projects. And what if? So 5 projects in one year.
On Disney Plus, yep.
On Disney Plus in 1 year. Now, this year, they kind of scaled back just a bit at that point, in the sense of we had Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and, again, you count I Am Groot. And then you got the 2
special
presentations at that point. So still a lot of content on both ends. This year was a little more, okay, how we're going to do this a little bit differently. But to your point, there's a lot of homework to do. There's the special presentations right now, Werewolf by Night, it's a one-off. We haven't seen what's going to happen next. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special comes in where, giving us a little bit of like teases for Volume 3. But it is at a point right now where we've also seen a big pickup this year. We've talked about in this show, VFX. The VFX artists have been, it's been worked to the bone prior to this, but the past couple of years leading up to this, because again, it's not just this year they're making it. These projects have been in the can, but they've been working their people to the bone. And to sometimes like, look, some of that could have been cleaned up a little bit if they had more time or weren't pushing these through. So I will always say this. I agree with it. Quality over quantity. I don't see them necessarily canceling projects. I do see them shifting where projects are. Not just from like series to special presentations, but also like they possibly did with Armor Wars, changing that from Armor Wars from a series to a movie.
And they've done that a couple times. Hawkeye was originally going to be a movie, and they switched it to a show. Armor Wars is going the other direction. I think if I understand it right, the Guardians Holiday Special, I think I saw a thing that Feige said that Gunn first brought it up during the making of Guardians Volume 2.
Yes.
That's something they should consider. I don't think they ever intended that to be more than a special. Werewolf by Night, I have no idea. But I like that they're doing this now. It's like, mix it up, please. Star Wars, I will beat this term. Star Wars has given us episode counts of 6, 7, 8, and 12 for their live action shows. Right? Mando was 8, Boba was 7, Kenobi was 6, Andor was 12, right?
Yeah.
I want to see more of a variety of like that. With Marvel, we have had 6 and 9, and that has been our episode counts. We would have had 10 with What If not for the one episode that had to get punted. But 6 and 9 is all we've had. I'm like, give me a little bit more. Does this show really only need 3 or 4 episodes? I'm okay with that. Does this one actually need 10 or 11? I'm okay with that too. To their credit, Daredevil's 18. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I want more of that, and I'm hopeful that the reaction to both Werewolf by Night and Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special, will encourage them to do more of those. And just to be clear, I don't want the shows to go entirely away in favor of the specials, but I would, for me, an ideal mix would maybe be 2 and 2 each year, or maybe three total, 2 shows in one special presentation, something like that. Leaving time, because even if you did 3 and you had 3 movies, you're still putting 6 installments out in a year. You're still covering a lot of story ground in 1 year.
Yeah, as All in the Game said, 3 Disney Plus shows a year should be a limit. Again, it's because Disney Plus is a platform not just for Marvel. You got Star Wars, you've got their own Disney content on it, like such as the Santa Clauses and all things like that. So I mean, they have to find a way to spread it out and not crowd it out. I mean, again, listen to Star Wars Alliance, the way they're working out with the Bad Batch premiering in January. Towards the end of its run, it's going to run up against Mando. Now, again, Bad Batch, Mando, you have your Star Wars audiences, but your general audience is going to be more geared towards Mando tuning in than Bad Batch. Let's be kind of honest with that.
Sure, but why are they doing that? Like, I'm sure there are people who are, primarily subscribed to Disney Plus for Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So if so, you would think you would want no overlap. Again, the overlap weeks are fun. That first time it happened with Shang-Chi and Loki, I think it was, with Black Widow and Loki, I think it was.
Yes.
Shang-Chi was with What If. It was fun, right? Like, it's really cool. It's like, I had 2 installments. In fact, because I saw Shang-Chi early at that special screening, I had 2 in the same day with What If in the morning and then Shang-Chi that night. It's a lot of fun, but why would you do that when you could spread them out over the calendar, cover more weeks, and the overlap to me just doesn't make sense. And you kind of get that first year. They're trying to get the system up and running, and frankly, Star Wars wasn't ready. They weren't ready to put out a bunch of stuff in the first, couple years of Disney Plus. They had Mando, which was amazing. Don't get me wrong, I love Mando, but they really didn't have anything else for a long time. And so, okay, I kind of get it. Marvel pick up a little bit of the slack there that Lucasfilm maybe is, but it's not that way anymore, right? Like, the Lucasfilm machine is going. They're getting content, their stuff. Spread it out. Don't overlap your stuff within the same series. And in my opinion, there should never be a week where both Marvel and Star Wars live action thing, or 2 Marvel things or 2 Star Wars things come out at the same time on Disney Plus. I just don't understand it.
And, right now what we're looking at confirmed for next year, like actually confirmed, I believe you've got What If Season 2, Echo, and Secret Invasion, when more than likely Secret Invasion being our first show of the Disney Plus of 2023. Could there be a special presentation in there that they really haven't talked about yet? Sure. In 2024 right now, the only 2 series that are known are Agatha Coven of Chaos and then Daredevil Born Again, which, Feige put out there, it's going to be 18 episodes. Could I see that being trimmed back, a little bit with these, trimmed back a little bit? Sure. I mean, 18 episodes, that is, that's what you and I have always talked about. Like, I'm not going to turn down more Charlie Cox at that point, but that's getting to what people are saying, that sweet spot there was kind of like 10, 13 episodes at that point. Now we're kind of like overcompensating.
I'm excited for Daredevil. Like, that is...
yeah, same here. Yeah.
Sure. King Dynasty, Secret Wars, of course. Like, those are the big ones, and I recognize that. But I personally, I love the Daredevil character so much. And no, he's not my favorite. That still goes to Spider-Man. But the difference is I know I'm getting more Spider-Man. I'm always getting more Spider-Man.
You're right, all in the game. Again, end of the night. Loki and Ironheart come out. So we now have basically 4 shows more than likely coming out next year.
But Daredevil is not a guaranteed commodity. Right? Like, there's no guarantee of getting more. I'm always getting more Spider-Man. I don't feel like I have to champion that and push for that. Daredevil's different. But damn, 18. Even I'm like, really? We're going to jump all the way to that? Like, what is that going to look like? Is it going to be 3 6-episode arcs? Is it going to be 18 weeks in a row? Are we going to have time for one-offs where maybe we get the Punisher visiting for an episode, maybe we get Jessica Jones, She-Hulk, and in 18 episodes, maybe there's 4 or 5 of them that are team-ups? That'd be kind of cool. If that happens, other than She-Hulk, are we going to see him team up with any other Marvel Studios characters? No, I'm not thinking yes, I'm always thinking Spider-Man, but I don't realistically see a scenario where Spider-Man appears on Disney Plus in live action. But I don't understand. I don't get it. I'm like, why are you, limiting or not? I'm going to use that word for lack of a better phrase. All these 6-episode arcs down to those. But with Daredevil, you're giving him effectively 3 seasons worth of content out of the gate. I got questions.
Yeah, on the game saying the shorter 2-year phases are also unnecessary. Should be at least 3 years. Yeah, I mean, they put their arbitrary number on that and limiter that kind of confines them to kind of cram in a lot of stuff. And again, maybe they're having a little sour grapes, realizing, maybe we should have extended it. A lot of rumors are pointing to right now, nothing is looking to be canceled. Things are probably more than likely getting pushed off. We're probably going to see some more delays coming towards the latter end of Phase 5 into Phase 6, which, again, if delays mean better quality product, sure, I'm all in favor of that. It's just I'd rather them start course correcting now before realizing like we're getting into phase 6. Oh my God, we really should have had some changes. Now I applaud Disney, Iger, Feige, and the crew over there at Marvel Studios for saying, hey, let's see exactly, we haven't got, it wasn't the best ride. It was a bumpy ride in phase 4. We had some ups, we had some downs, we had some mediocre stuff. I don't expect Marvel to put out banger after banger after banger after banger. I'm okay with some things that aren't the top peak at that point. I expect that. But there's something to be said that when we do our rankings of phase 4 in a couple of weeks, it's one of those things where the writing's on the wall with the box office, the writing's on the wall with the critics and the fans' reception of this. It has not been as high as it was in the first 3 phases.
I think that the ceiling has been really high. When it's been great, it has been great. I'm looking at you, Shang-Chi. I'm looking at you, Spider-Man No Way Home. But the floor has been lower than arguably what we've been getting for quite a while, right? Like I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm just going to throw out Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, and The Incredible Hulk, which tend to be the whipping boys of the MCU. Those are the examples people will give as the worst of the worst.
And Incredible Hulk has had a better resurgence in the sense of people looking back saying, hey, actually, it's actually better than people originally thought it was.
It has, yes. But even with the others,
And to some extent, look at this time we got Eternals. Thor:
Eternals
Love and Thunder
is the movie that I was thinking of. I guess I'm spoiling something for when we rank phase 4. But Eternals for me is down there on my overall MCU rankings. It's towards the bottom. I'm not saying it's not the bottom, but it's down there. And so I feel like our floor has gotten lower, but our ceiling is still every bit as high as maybe it ever has been. Right? I put Spider-Man No Way Home and Shang-Chi up there with any of it. And then, of course, we've had this stuff in the middle. And that doesn't even count, the Disney Plus shows. That's just the movies. And so I feel like overall the quality is still there. But stuff stands out, especially, All in the Game mentions the 2-year phase. Yeah, that's super fast to get this many projects. And so the duds, maybe, do they stand out more because it's so quick? Or I say duds, that feels harsh. Eternals wasn't a dud. I still like the movie. It's just not up to the same par. Is it just there's not enough time to dwell on it? But there's not enough time to see other stuff either because of how many projects. It's undeniable that I have seen during phase 3 coming out, I was able to rewatch content more than I am now because there was quite a bit less of it. And there was still, phase 3 was still pretty big compared to phases 1 and 2. But I actually had this problem with the Arrowverse where it got to a point where I was able to rewatch quite a bit originally, and then there was just so much I couldn't keep doing it. Now I'm still able to get 2 or 3 viewings in of all these shows, but there are some times I'm bending over backwards to make that happen, and I don't know that I would if not for the show because I feel a responsibility to know the shows. Luckily, I like them, so it helps. And every now and then, there's an episode I'll watch it 5 or 6 times, or parts of it 5 or 6 times, just because they're that great. But I do think they need to give the VFX artists more time. 2, they maybe need to slow things down a little bit. I'm not upset with the alleged lack of connectivity. I see people harp on that, and I'm like, I think there's more connectivity than people give credit for.
And I have a response to that.
How often are people asking for less connectivity? And now they're getting some less connectivity with projects like Moon Knight, and they're mad because Blade doesn't show up in Moon Knight, or the Black Knight didn't show up in. And I'm like, we don't get it both ways, except for with Marvel, we kind of do, and we kind of are. So I like what they're doing. I just wish the timeline was a little longer. So like All in the Game said, maybe instead of doing it 2 years, let's go in 3. And then we have 6 projects a year instead of 9.
He also says Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is on track to be the 7th highest of 30 grossing domestic MCU movies after 4 Avenger movies, No Way Home, and Black Panther, which is impressive. It is very impressive. Now,
I have to look that up. I haven't seen what its numbers are today, but
you bring up the idea that we've heard over and over. You mentioned that, phase 4, the connectivity to where we're going in the MCU with this the multiverse saga and things like that. Like, you and I talked about this when we were getting ready to get into phase 4, saying that this is the post Endgame world. There's a lot of stuff that they had to kind of rectify and take a pause, building a bigger world out of a post Endgame world. The connections were there, like you said, they were subtle, but they weren't as overt as we got used to in building towards during the Infinity Saga. And I can't remember what it is. I'm not an anime person, but I saw people compare it to. I saw a number of people compare it to like an anime where you have kind of a pause for a series of like. And again, it's correct me. Someone will correct me at that point. But like, this is a type of phase that they do a lot in anime. Like, just a pause where things are building, little connections here or there, and then we move on to, okay, now we're going to show you it's going to be more connected, which I'm more confident that phases 5 and 6 are going to be much more connected where people can see it versus this one. But again, this was okay. We not everything has to be as connected as was, because again, we're building in new characters, we're building in new stories, we're building in these new ways of thinking with people that we have seen and grown up with in the first 3 phases into new characters that no one has ever, most of the GA is completely unfamiliar with, and that people have found from Moon Knight to Miss Marvel to She-Hulk, as our new characters that have really gotten to shine. People have some real personal connections to what they're putting out there in these shows.
When Avengers Endgame came out, a lot of people were saying, Marvel's dead. I'm done after Endgame. The MCU is they're over. Stick a fork in them. They're done, right? And I rarely miss a chance to make fun of those comments when I see them online. That said, what people think that a lot of people who are upset about the connectivity or the MCU's in shambles, there's no direction, whatever, they forget that we're not in phase 3 of a 3-phase saga. We're in phase 1 of a 3-phase saga. And they forget to go back to phase 1 and what you knew during phase 1. And all you knew during phase 1 was you were building to the Avengers. And people were like, no, you knew we were going to Thanos after that. Really? Really, did we? Because they didn't go to Thanos in movie 2, which is what everybody thought they were going to do. They still made you wait more for Thanos. Yes, you got a tease of him in 2014 with Guardians of the Galaxy. But they made you wait all the way to 2018 before you got the Thanos story. You got that. And it didn't even end until 2019. People are like trying to rush to that end feeling of the culmination. They want to be at Secret Wars today and bypass all the buildup. And I'm just like, guys, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, they're great, fantastic movies, but they don't work in a vacuum. You need the history for them. And without the history, they're not as good. They're not as good. They're not a one-shot movie. I'm not going to just, if someone says to me, what's the best Marvel movie ever? I think it's Avengers Endgame. But if they've never seen it, that's not the movie I'm going to show them. Because that's not the way it's designed. And people are just trying to jump to the end. No, we got to get introduced to our new characters. And I know people get mad and upset because they're like, well, screw these characters. We want the OG 6 back. We want Steve Rogers back, and we want Iron Man. Where's RDJ? If he's not in it, it's trash. It's like, well, they are real people, and they want to maybe consider retiring. And if I don't know. To me, I'm like, thank you for your service. Enjoy your retirement. If they want to come back and appear in Secret Wars, nobody will be more excited than I will be to see them again. That one last round. But I am blown away at the impatience that Marvel fans have when we just went through a 23-phase saga all the way through Far From Home. You had the patience for that, but you don't have the patience to wait a few more years. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I personally am not surprised because that's fandom in general.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, that's on every side of the aisle. Pick your fandom. Give me it. I want it now. We all want certain things. I mean, you and I could definitely admit that as we jokingly sometimes I want it now. But yes, I mean, this is something that could be one where, you know, we're gonna have to see exactly. Like, I agree with what the article says. I don't see many changes happening in the next year. I do see changes towards the last year of Phase 5 into Phase 6. So we'll be on the lookout for that. We'll see what moves. We'll see what changes. What goes from series to special presentation, maybe to a movie, or just where things are going at that point. But really good discussion. And so let's take our first ad break before we head on to the rest of our news. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose when ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So looking at our next kind of, you know, we talk about Secret Wars. We brought this up a bunch at that point, but let's talk about the X-Men. So this is coming from the YouTube channel Heavy Spoilers. We brought them up a number of times on the show. Excellent channel. He does some great work for breakdowns over there. He's following up on a report where he put out there that his sources are telling him where, you know, Feige's looking to bring back as many past actors from old Marvel movies as he can for Secret Wars to take on Kang. He says that's more than what they're aiming for with Secret Wars Climax, with every franchise on screen at the same time. He says, now I did get told the idea is that from then on, they want to sign new contracts with some of the stars from those old franchises to bring them into a streamlined universe. The comics did this too, he said, and when Marvel had lots of different universes existing alongside each other, they did a new version of Secret Wars and brought across the favorites into one universe, such as Miles Morales coming over from the Ultimate Universe. And, you know, this plan with Secret Wars too, and it's going to allow some of the X-Men and so on to be brought across and stay there for a time being past Secret Wars. Now, because of this being streamlined, I'm guessing Avengers Secret Wars ends in a way that we've already been told. And he does say, take this with a pinch of salt. This is still early on, and this is a rough idea that is being tossed around according to his sources in the Marvel Studios. So, you know, looking at, like, you know, them calling out some of the X-Men in general sticking around into the MCU. You know, people say, oh my God, it's gonna be Hugh Jackman signing a long-term contract. He's gonna continue being Wolverine. That would be great, but I don't see that one. I see if they're going to continue on with some characters, they're going to look at some of the actors that are a little bit younger than Hugh and others that can continue on for a little bit longer. Again, not saying I wouldn't be happy to see Hugh Jackman on, but the fact that he's coming back on for Deadpool 3 and maybe an appearance in Secret Wars at that point, that's more than you and I and many others thought we would ever get again out of him.
Do we really not think Hugh Jackman's a lock for Secret Wars at this point?
Oh, I don't. I definitely think he
he's
is.
Yeah. No, fact or fiction, Hugh Jackman in Secret Wars. Fact. Like I think that's happening. No, everyone else, you know, will have a conversation. I think he's a lock.
Mm-hmm.
As I was, you know, reading through kind of this news as it came out earlier this week, I was thinking about the X-Men movies. And with maybe a couple exceptions, almost entirely my complaints about that series come down to writing and direction. They're almost entirely, like, okay, I'll say it. I'm still not convinced Halle Berry was right for Storm. I will not. She's a great actress. I'm just not convinced she was right for Storm. And maybe that's just that Toad line sticking out too much in my memory. But that's just where I'm at. But in general, I don't feel like the problems was overall the casting. Right? I mean, they got some great cast members there. So
on both sides, the originals and the First Class side.
Yes. So I feel like if they wanted to bring some of them back and incorporate them longer term past Secret Wars, okay, I'm open to it. It's not necessarily what I really... my first choice, I'll just be honest, is I would like them to just completely recast the whole thing, just start entirely fresh. But maybe I can have my cake and eat it too, because if the real problem is the writing and direction, well, don't bring on Simon Kinberg to work on these movies. I said it. I'll just name names. I said it. Maybe, you know, with people that I have more faith in as creators behind the camera, maybe it would be different with casting that was still good casting at the time, right? Like if James McAvoy wants to come back, if he's an option to play Professor X again, great. I'll take it. Like right there, I will take it. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Fantastic. But at the same time, if they want to go different ways, I don't blame them. So I'm open to this. I think it's interesting. I love the comparison with Miles. And it's funny because I always remember when the Ultimate Universe first started and Peter was still around. At some point, they made a comment of like, if we ever crossed them over, we ran out of ideas. And now they didn't just do the Spider-Man crossover, which is great and I loved, but they did full-blown merged them in, right? Like they're just like, welcome, here, the doorway's open, we're bringing your supporting cast, and we're letting almost everybody else go from your universe because they all went off the rails anyway. But I'm open to that idea. I think that could be fun. And Marvel has shown...
No, I just love that idea. The most stable character they brought over was the one who took over for, spoiler alert, Peter Parker is dead at one point, taking over that everyone, so many people lost their freaking minds. And it's like, oh my God, a African-American, Spider-Man is taking over. This is just the end of the world. And it ended up being one of the best new characters, and continues to be an inspiration to so many people, Miles Morales at that point. And it's just amazing to see that kind of transition. Like the most stable character was the one so many people reacted so like didn't even give it a chance. It's like on its face value done. Like I laughed when I saw, look at this. This is an amazing turnaround.
I don't know. I think it'd be interesting, and I appreciate the love that Marvel has shown for past iterations of characters, especially in the Multiverse of Madness. Sure, Wanda killed them all, but like they didn't have to do those characters at all. They didn't have to throw any kind of bone whatsoever to those other versions of these characters. We got they brought back Black Bolt, right? Like, and right there, casting was not the problem. Of course, they brought back Professor X. We get Captain Carter, like all these different versions. Everything they did with Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, if that doesn't prove that they're willing to look back and like celebrate the past, I don't know what does. Because arguably no comic book movie has ever celebrated the past more than Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm okay. Like if they want to take a spin with the X characters, see what Feige can do with him when he's in charge and not just, the coffee boy or whatever he started as. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and again, it would fit in the sense of merging universes, merging some of these multiverses into one Streamlined. Like there's going to be some ones that are going to stick around. That would make sense. This is not like, oh my God, they're just trying to capitalize on it. No, this is kind of what the comics did in both times. So it's going to be very fun. Again, they are trying every time we get some more information about like the supposed nature of what's happened in Secret War. It gets bigger and more. Again, his goal is to top Endgame.
And so, do you think they can? Is that reasonable?
Oh, I think so. I think it's if even if a fourth of these rumors are true. Oh yeah, they're gonna do it. It will overtake Endgame.
Okay, let's make sure we're on the same page here.
Okay.
When we say top Endgame, overtake Endgame, what are we talking about? Story quality, the amazing feeling you got when you watch Portals or when you watch Cap pick up Thor's hammer, or are we talking box office?
I'm talking both. I think in a sense of it's not saying like, oh, Endgame was going to be is like worst ever, like this one takes like with everything, every sequel you want to look at like you don't want to do the same thing, you want to do the next thing. What can top that scene in Portals? What can top Thanos? What's going to top Thanos? Kang is going to top. I've said it over and over again. Kang is going to be scarier and more destructive than Thanos ever was in those first three phases.
He will absolutely be more built up than Thanos was.
Yeah.
100% agree with that. If you ask me, do I think it's possible that Kang may become a better villain than Thanos? Yeah, I do. He's going to have more build up. I think that's possible. He's going to be super interesting with different versions. I've heard people saying like Secret Wars is going to top Endgame, and let me be clear, I think it's possible. But is it possible? It's like that was such a worldwide phenomenon, right? Like I'm not going to say there's never been something else like it, but in some ways that is true. There's never been another movie that made $1 billion over the weekend. Over the weekend, nothing else has ever done that. It's $2.8 billion worldwide. It's number 2 at the box office behind Avatar, which Avatar will only continue to grow as it gets re-released, which isn't shade. It's just true because that movie, people like that movie. It's going to continue to bring in money. I love the ambition of it. I love the ambition that they're going to go for that. I remember after the Crisis on Infinite Universe in the DCCW, thinking next year's crossover needs to be smaller. They have to go smaller. They can't. You're not getting bigger than the biggest story of DC all time. Like you're just not going to. Not at the scale that they had, the budgets they had. Part of me wonders. I've questioned the same thing with Marvel. I want them to keep doing what they're doing. Secret Wars does not have to match Avengers Endgame to be 100% successful, right? Like
correct.
I'm not gonna,
I can agree with that. Yes.
Like I'm not like one of its check marks for success is it better than Endgame, because that's just not fair to any movie. But
that's a subjective statement too.
Of course, so. I don't like right now. I'm just like I don't know. I'll admit it. Part of me wonders, I won't have, my hype is there. I'm ready. But will the audience have the hype when they get there in like half the time, basically? And I don't know. I'm just,
it's going to go back to our original story, our first story, looking at the supposed course corrections are going to do. Are they going to do these? Are they going to do this? Are people going to finally start seeing this multiverse saga? What I will point to is this. I will point to Multiverse of Madness. That movie, until we'll see with Black Panther right now, that has been the most successful movie this year. And that movie built a lot of hype on those cameos that were in it, that nostalgia, that like, oh my God, Patrick Stewart is back as Charles Xavier. Oh my God, is Mr. Fantastic in it? Oh my God, it's these people. So I think as they build this and build the nostalgia and build the rumors of like these people are coming back, we're getting these hints of it, there's sequences of it. It's going to that's where you're gonna get people wanting to see it, to relive. Oh my God, I remember when I was a kid and saw X-Men. I remember when I saw the Fantastic Four, the original with Fox at that point. People are gonna come out to see that and see those people one more time.
Yeah. And now my question is, how do they market this? Because with No Way Home, they bent over backwards to pretend Toby and Andrew weren't in it. With Multiverse of Madness, they just showed people in the marketing, like in the random TV spots. And I feel like, man, can we maybe find some happy medium here? At this point, for example, show me Hugh Jackman, because he will have presumably already, not even presumably, he will have already been out by the time we get to, because we will have seen him in Deadpool 3. So show me Hugh Jackman, right? Advertise Hugh Jackman. If Toby and Andrew, if either of them come back or both of them come back, you put them in the marketing. You put front and center. Yeah. We have multiple Spider-Man. You love them. We brought them back. Well, they're doing it. Well, let's do it one more time, and bring them into it. But if you've got somebody for Miles, like if you're going to bring in a live action Miles, maybe don't show him in the marketing. Okay, yeah, if you're going to bring back James McAvoy as Professor X, don't show him in the marketing. If we haven't seen him prior to that point, just don't show them in the marketing. One or two of them maybe, but in general, if you're really going to try and get everybody back, and I would like to know what everybody means, right? Like, is David Hasselhoff's Nick Fury coming back? But
Nick Cage's Ghost Rider is riding again, buddy.
I mean, he's got to pee off the back of that trailer. If you're going to do that, show some of them, but don't show everybody. You almost need a second press tour, like almost a second red carpet, like a week after the movie comes out, so all those people can have their moment that you want to hide from the marketing. Because also, let's not show them on the red carpet. Let's not bring people to the red carpet that you haven't announced as part of the movie. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, we've got an interesting post-credits discussion that kind of continues on with this idea, and that might give a little bit of light to that. But our last story of the evening, we've already kind of hinted around Daredevil tonight. Let's bring out Charlie, for this next one as I change the background. So this is coming from Deadline as an exclusive. Margarita Levieva and Sandrine Holt joined Daredevil Born Again. And so both these actresses are set for major roles opposite Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio in Daredevil Born Again. Details about their characters are kept under wraps, but they are hearing that they may be playing love interest for Charlie Cox. Reps from Marvel and the actresses have declined to comment as expected. They say Levieva is pulling double duty for Disney Plus, as Deadline revealed exclusively last week that she's also booked to guest star on in the Star Wars series The Acolyte. She's also starred in 3 seasons of the HBO series The Deuce. On the feature side, Levieva recently starred in Lionsgate feature Inherit the Viper opposite Josh Hartnett. Holt recently reoccurred on Showtime's drama series American Gigolo. Her extensive TV credits include AMC's Better Call Saul, Prime Video's The Expanse, Showtime's Homeland, CBS's MacGyver, NBC's Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and Netflix's House of Cards. Yeah, I mean, I know more of Holt than the other actress at that point, and yeah, she is outstanding and has been outstanding. But when people, as Twitter does, as the social medias does, when they put this out there and saying major love interest for Charlie Cox, said, oh my gosh, is like we're not bringing back Karen. Are we replacing Karen? Or is one of these people going to be Elektra? Oh, let's pump the brakes, people. For those of you who have not read the comics of Daredevil, Matt is a big ladies' man.
That is a nice way to put it.
Yes, and I will keep it like that. There is no qualms about it. Like he is with someone and will cheat on his women left and right. He is not the most, for being a very Catholic man, he is not the most faithful when it comes to being with people. And people say, well, he wasn't married. I'm just saying, let's pump the brakes. Just because we have 2 women doesn't mean that it's going to, they're replacing already people that you've grown to come and love. Remember, the actress who played Elektra in the Netflix series is already on a series right now. She is denied rumors, doesn't say they can change, but she is very much tied up in leading her own series. I think it's on NBC. And not saying she turned it down. And again, what's her face who's played Karen Page has been very Deborah Ann Wall has been always saying I would come back at that point. And being kind of, I haven't received the call, but we know sometimes those go. So I'm glad we're starting to hear casting rumors from this beyond Charlie Cox, beyond Vincent D'Onofrio. This is good progress for what we're seeing. But what about you, Brent? Are you freaking out about these castings? Any ideas of they may not be also love interest necessarily for just Matt? Kingpin could also have some love interest too.
Matt likes the ladies like Matt. It's a very reciprocal relationship. And you know what? Everybody tends to forget, he was portrayed as a ladies' man on the Netflix show. A fair amount of that was tell, don't show, but Foggy made several comments to Matt's promiscuous ways. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, he was with Karen. He was with Elektra on those. And all the other comments. We've now seen him with She-Hulk. It's none of this surprises me, right? None of this surprises me. These 2 could both be in, and Karen could also be a part of the show. And Tatiana Maslany could show up as She-Hulk for an episode or 2, right? All of this can be true. And with 18 episodes, they got the time to do it if they want. And you're absolutely right. Somebody could be a love interest for Wilson Fisk if they wanted to do that. Or a love interest for his son, or whatever the case may be. Because what I read was a major love interest, but not necessarily that it had to be Charlie Cox's love interest. If they are, I have questions of who they are. I wonder if one of them might be playing Mila, who he got married to for a while in the comics.
That was one of my ideas, yeah.
But there's time, guys. There's time. And, at this point, I hate to say it, but having got past the Bullseye arc, even though they don't name him Bullseye, that was for you.
Yes, it was.
Karen's on borrowed time. I know that sounds harsh, but that's how it feels. Her character feels like she's on borrowed time when you know what happens to her in the comics. Mm-hmm. And so, as far as Elektra goes, I wouldn't be at all surprised if she popped back up. Now, because there have been other times, like Haley Steinfeld, there were issues with her because of other projects. Those wrapped up, those finished, whatever the case may be. They can always work something out. All in the game says it's on Fox. He thinks it's called The Cleaning Lady.
Yes,
They can
he's right.
potentially work something out there where there's not a conflict, where they can shoot around her schedule for The Cleaning Lady. Like it's not, it's
Yeah,
doable.
totally.
I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable. So like all of these people could be a part of the show, or who knows? Maybe maybe Foggy's getting a little love action there. I know he had Marcy, but maybe things with Marcy didn't end up right, and he's moving on to someone else.
Yeah, I've also heard another one that one of them could be playing Kristen McDuffie, who's another one that's
That's a good idea.
Before. Mm-hmm. So again, or it could be completely new characters we've never seen before in comics, and they've taken an amalgam of some of Matt's past conquests in in the realm of love. But it's going to be interesting. Again, I was more excited that we got one of the big trades confirming some casting at that point. Of course, it's never confirmed until Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios says something. But when you come out from Deadline, you're coming out from a Hollywood Reporter, Variety, we might as well take this to the bank and say, yeah, count it as being the most official news we got.
Yeah, so. and I'm still excited to find, like, at this point, I am admittedly waiting to find out more of the Netflix era actors are coming back. I want to see Foggy again, right? Like, who's Daredevil without Foggy? It works for a story arc, but I want Foggy back for the long run. Yes, I would like Karen to come back, and of course, I want the Punisher to show back up if that's an option. And as I told some people at work the other day,
come on, Red.
I think nice. I think it's going to happen. I do think that we will see the Punisher again.
I agree.
Will he get his own show? I don't necessarily feel that, but I think by the end of Daredevil, we will see the Punisher.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's been a lot of smoke lately that we haven't really talked about in this show. We've talked about some with the Punisher, but I'm starting to feel the fire's getting closer on that one. So. But all right, well, that is all the news for this week. So before we get into our Factor Fictions and Comic Book Club, we're going to take our last ad break for the evening. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And thank you, Brent, for blocking that lovely chatter at that point.
Yeah. We don't need that kind of spam in our chat.
No, we do not. Yeah, that's not the spam we want. So, all right. So no questions this week, but so let me pull up the Factor Fictions from last week so we can kind of see exactly how the fans felt about your Factor Fictions.
All right. Well, while you're pulling those up, I'm going to put up a comment that Jim Scroggs said.
Okay.
He said, I like the idea of slowing down because people's time is becoming more and more precious. I want these new stories and characters to be done correctly. And I want to speak to, there is an absurd amount of high quality content right now between both movies and streaming shows and just, traditional television. It's insane. So it's like, yeah, like part of it is if you're going to get people's time, you almost got to make it worthwhile. You've got to be putting out your A game because there's 3 other things just as good if you're not.
Like you and I were talking about, you're starting to watch Wednesday. What am I watching right now? Like I'm doing, as I've talked about, like starting Doctor Who. I'm like almost done with this first season with David Tennant right now. But I started Dahmer, but I've taken a step back from Dahmer because maybe I want to watch Wednesday. Like I've got on my Netflix queue of like shows. Like I still have to watch Enola Gay and all these different things. So it's just like. No, Enola Holmes. Yeah, Enola Holmes. Like,
which was pretty good, but
yeah,
there's so much.
And I've got I like playing some video games. Like I'm playing God of War. I'm reading comics for comic book channels. Like I enjoy what I'm doing, but I've gotten to the point right now. Like I've taken this advice, particularly this year. It's like I'm gonna see it when I can see it. I'm gonna play it when I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna read it when I'm gonna read it. Because you know what? I've got it, and I know the stuff. Like I know when things are leaving or things are like kind of only around for a little bit. That's okay, because I will prioritize and reprioritize, but I'm not going to stress out about certain things unless it's like for this network that I've got to do, and that's not even stress, that's fun. But everything else I'm going to enjoy. I've gotten tired of. I've got to see everything. I got to be that discussion. I'll see when I see it. And if someone really convinces me to move it to the top of the ladder, I'll move it to the top of the ladder. So
Yeah, I'm lucky in that the stuff I want to watch the absolute most, the Marvel content, is the stuff that I arguably also have to keep up with. But like shows like Wednesday, please no spoilers. I'm less than halfway into it. I'm enjoying it. We will absolutely finish it. But it's a show I'm watching with my wife, so we have to have the time where we can both do it. And, at the end of the day, you're tired, whatever. If you had a busy day at work, we need the time where we're both awake, and we have the time to do it. And it's definitely not kid appropriate. So,
yeah. Well,
I can't even throw it on while the kids are, around. Because if you've seen the show, you already know. No, absolutely not. And so, there's so much content that, to Jim's point, you got to earn people's time. You have to earn their attention because, like you said, you're not just competing with other shows. You're competing with movies and video games and books and, exercising or just, spending time with your family or all the other things that you can do. So, man, you got to be good if you're going to be the one to draw someone's attention.
Yeah, and he mentions Stallone Tulsa King, it's written by the guy who's doing Yellowstone at that point. I love it. It's another thing to add to my list. I'm Doom Patrol came back today. I've only gotten 30 minutes into the first episode, so I've got to add that to it. Again, it's a great time, but it's also again for those of you how am I gonna watch it? Don't worry about it. Watch it when you can. It'll be there.
You know what? Up your mute game. If there's something you might want to go to, just mute it on Twitter so you can avoid spoilers and. Just tune that stuff out, and then you get to it when you get to it.
Yep, exactly. So, nice aside at that point. Thank you, Jim, for putting that out there. All right, so Fact or Fiction from last week. Number 1, if Toby, Andrew, or Tom are in one of the Spider-Verse sequels, there will be a reference to it not being the first time they've met an alternate version of Spider-Man. 91% said fact, 9% said fiction. So, sounds like they are all behind that one. Number 2, by the end of Phase 6, we will see Daredevil and Spider-Man in costume together. 80% said fact, 20% said fiction. And number 3, Madam
20%?
Web.
20%? They're wrong.
Sorry, try again. Number 3, Madam Web will appear in the Silk TV show. # Madam Web is the blueprint. And that would be 87% said fact, 13% said fiction.
Wow, people were definitely in agreement that week.
Yes, they were. Everyone was. So we'll see. All right, so my turn this week. So Tanya kind of talking about 2 of these are part of our theme, and another one is, we haven't heard from them in a while. Let me bring them back into the game. All right, so there will be no more than 2 Disney Plus MCU series each year starting in 2024, while any additional projects will be special presentation. So the big thing with this one is that kind of like we were talking about, how many MCU Disney Plus series are going to be. I'm saying after 2024, there will be no more than 2 Disney Plus series.
Why, when you said that, did I feel the need to open my calendar?
Outside of this year, things are going to shift. I guarantee it.
I'm gonna say fact. I think there's more pros than cons to that, so I'm gonna go fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fact. Talking to our discussion, our discussion earlier actually more solidified my fact than where I was earlier when I was writing this. So, second one, Loki will be the final season 2 we see for Disney Plus until after Phase 6.
Oh, whoa, fiction. I think what do you think's going to get? I think what if it's going to break you.
Okay. Well, what if I just say live action then at that point?
I say you've got me.
Okay. So I will add live. I will qualify that as live action.
If you're qualifying the live action, I'm going to say fact because nothing else has even gotten a confirmed season 2. Mm-hmm. And no, I won't. I know some people might want to count Agatha as a season 2 to WandaVision. No, it's a spinoff. Yeah. So I'm not willing to do that. So we could maybe have a semantics conversation if there's a Scarlet Witch TV show or if the Vision Quest rumored show happens. But in general,
that's a spinoff.
Yeah, even there. So if we're gonna hold it to live action, and I'll go fact with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely fact just because, like you said, we keep on hearing, we heard Miss Marvel saying they had these kind of gifts they're talking about season 2 and things like that, but Loki's the one who broke the mold on that one, but it's the only one that has broken the mold. And now with this news about maybe some reevaluating, maybe moving towards special presentations, it's just I don't see a season 2 fitting in this structure until after Phase 6. That's why I didn't want to say ever. I'm just saying until after Phase 6. So
yeah. I mean,
especially when we've got a 18 episode Daredevil season.
let's I guess there's a bit of a wild card there because we don't actually know how they're going to market that one and put it out there. Like, is it going to be like, Daredevil Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, like throughout, like it? But we know what you mean in the spirit of your question, so we'll go with fact.
All right, my last one. The Eternals will not be mentioned again until Phase 6.
Wow, that's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
When's Blade come out? I know you're like, what's the connection there? But
no, I'll let you roll with it.
I'm thinking of the Black Knight.
Yeah.
September 2024. I'm gonna go ahead and say fiction. I mean, not be mentioned again. You mean like Kingo movie posters don't count, right?
Correct. I'm talking about like if here's where I was thinking. Like originally, when I was structuring this question, I was going to say the first time the Eternals were going to be mentioned will be Quantumania. That was my original structure of this question. But then I said, let's get crazy with it at that point. In that, I think it could be Quantumania. But then looking at the projects that are ahead of us at that point, yeah, there's a possibility of maybe Secret Invasion, maybe the Marvels, maybe even Guardians of the Galaxy. But I just wanted to say there could be a possibility of them not being mentioned again, especially with all this stuff where, like, it just there's been radio silence on anything Eternals.
Okay, I'll go fact. I'm not 80-90%, but yeah, I'll go fact. You've sold me on your line of thought, so I'll roll with you here.
Yeah, I'm a fact, but like you said, it's not a hard fact on this one. It's just, again, I just named a couple of projects where very easily we could get a mention.
That is tough, though.
An easy mention of maybe they're finally going to mention that darn thing in the middle of the in the ocean, that celestial in the middle of the ocean. I'll count that as a mention of the Eternals in that sense.
I thought about that when I was watching Guardians Volume 2 the other day, and the big glowing plant thing that just overtakes the DQ. It's like never to be heard from again.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, I'll be happy to be proven wrong because again, I that is a movie. I said it, I think, during our review. That movie will probably be looked at more kindly depending on where we see the Eternals next and where they fit into the MCU moving forward. I think that movie will be judged in a different light.
It's likely.
It's gonna be. I'll put it out there. It'll be the Incredible Hulk. It'll be the Incredible Hulk. So, all right. So, I will post those as always on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard on that, and let us move into Comic Book Club, our last thing for the evening.
Did you see this question from All in the Game? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I'm sorry.
Not for tonight, because I got to sit on this.
Okay.
He says, doesn't have to be answered tonight, but if you had to play Feige and cut 6 projects from the 18 Phase 4 ones to bring it down to an even dozen, which 6 do you not green light?
Oh, wow. Okay, Brent, you got to put that in our...
I've already put it into our feedback note on this. And I guess All in the Game, before, if you're still with us, give me one bit of clarification. Is this with my knowledge of having seen them or my knowledge of like what I would have anticipated them to be before I saw them? Because that could change my answers. So with that,
man, that's
tough. Yes,
that is. I mean, I hate the phrase like that's a good question, but like that is a really good.
Oh,
question.
it's a ball buster. It's a ball buster.
Yes, that's bravo. All in the Game. That's definitely going to be talked about next week.
Right,
So.
I hate that question, but it's a great question. But yes, do clarify for me, Game. Do you mean with my knowledge I've seen it, or what I would have been thinking at the time beforehand? Because
now
he says before we saw him. Okay.
Okay. So here's another thing. All in the Game. we're probably not going to do our Phase 4 rankings next week, just because we know there's the Spider-Verse, Cross Spider-Verse trailers coming out next week. So that's going to be our main story.
Yes.
More than likely, it's going to come 2 weeks. Would you rather us answer that next week or wait till our Phase 4 rankings? Because that could be a nice little discussion.
Chris is trolling for time. Can I have more time to whittle this down? Or
no, I'm thinking of synergy. That's more of what I'm thinking at that point.
That's
a very good question.
And knowing
very,
this before I saw them, I mean, I think that like there's one that made after I saw it I would keep, but before I saw it I wouldn't have. So
yeah.
My gosh. Oh.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun question to answer. I like it. So, all right. So Marvel Zombies. We did Dead Days, the prequel to this one. Okay, it's completely up to you. Brendan and I will talk. It will be answered. It will be answered within the next 2 weeks. So, all right. So we are in Marvel Zombies official, the very first series, issue 1. This is just a very gory and just hilarious at the same time, dark humor as all get out for a Marvel book.
You know, I like me some good dark humor, and this I love this book. It's so good. The art is so great. It's ridiculous. It's fun. The cover's incredible, but just. I mean, like when he takes Captain America's shield and chops off the top of his head when Magneto does it, and Cap is just like, "Look what he did to me!" Like I just started laughing. So much fun.
I just like love it in this universe. Like he's not Captain America, he's Colonel America. Like they like dated this in such a way. Magneto's kind of going around and actually using Cap's shield against like somebody like cutting off, like decapitating Hawkeye, shoving Hawkeye's arrow through Thor's throat. The darkness gets even worse when, they end up killing Magneto at that point, tearing him apart. But like, what was it? Hulk eating Magneto's leg, and then he's back into Banner form, and he's like, I gotta transform, someone hit me quick before the leg busts through my stomach at that point, and he doesn't transform. Oh my god, it's just like, oh really? But again, this is coming from the mind of Robert Kirkman, the man who created The Walking Dead, so this tracks for what he does, but it's like in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of ridiculousness that is not as like, for what have you ever read Deceased?
I've read like the first issue of it.
Yeah.
So I haven't read the rest.
So Marvel Marvel Zombies, like, oh, it's just playing off of Marvel Zombies. Yeah, in concept, but Deceased takes itself a lot more seriously. Like this is very like there's some stakes in this, but in Deceased, like the stakes are just like it is a more serious read than this kind of is. Which again, I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. But I just, he's trying, they're bashing Banner to try to transform. It's so much just like, man, this is a lot of fun.
I love Peter Parker's freak out because they explain once they feed, they get some of like their faculties back. Like they're more lucid, they're more in control, and their personalities come out a bit more. And I love the freak out that Peter had over what he did and how he ate Mary Jane and Aunt May, and just that's so Peter to freak out that way. And I just, laughing at him. And he has that line like, "Thanks to whoever threw me back a piece of Magneto," and they answer like, "Oh no, that was an accident. Like we weren't gonna. That was purely unintentional." It's like it is. But
it's so good, especially like when he goes, "Will you listen to me, dear God? What have we become?" And Luke Cage goes, "Oh God, here we go again." He's like the meme of for me, myself, and Irene.
Absolutely.
Man, it's a lot of fun. But then they're like saying, "Hey," like Luke Cage goes, "No, you idiot! In the sky, I saw something fly by." And Hank Pym goes, "I don't see anything. What is it that you saw?" And there you see the Silver Surfer just looking out at that point, and all they say is, "Oh, look, more food." Well, we know why Silver Surfer shows up. He's showing up because someone else is about to show up too.
We're about to get Galactus, and oh man, I remember what happens with
Oh yeah.
Galactus, and I'm looking forward to it. But no, it's so much fun, and the art is so good, and like it's gory, but it's that goofy kind of gory that's more
Yeah.
fun to watch than
Like it's not like
making
blood.
you
They've turned basically blood gray in this one.
Right. So great series. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Excuse me. It's just
we're reading
everything about it. Just like Daredevil gets impaled, he's still walking around fine. Oh wait, if as long as our brain remains undamaged, we're all good. And Captain America's like, I'm holding my brains, or Colonel America, my brains in my hand. So that theory's out. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and especially where, it's. It's just interesting. We're in the Christmas holiday season at this point, and we're reading basically what something we probably should have read in the October part of the year. But who cares? It's fun. It's Marvel. So,
hey, anything can be a Christmas story if you want it to be. I don't know. I don't care.
I don't think this one will. That's a stretch.
It feels like
a
stretch, but it's. You know what? We're gonna have fun doing it, and that's
darn
enough.
right. Yep, it is at that point. All right. Well, we've come to volume 141 in the books at that point. As you know, we've got a post credits discussion as always for you. But for those of you that won't be sticking around for that, thank you all for joining us. Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, BrentTech Prime, Twitter, TikTok, still there. Twitter's going strong. It's not going anywhere. I think it already would have if it was going to. So come hang out.
Yep, at that point. And definitely want to re-thank our sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this podcast at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. If you want to email the show, you can go to marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. Continue to rate the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA Network feed, and all on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts of choice. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. And stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, so we are going to give a big, spoiler kind of warning in the sense. It's not, this is for those of you that, you listen to our earlier discussion on, rumors that are coming out. Well, this is going to involve possible plot details for King Dynasty. And so we want to give you all a big kind of, take this with a grain of salt. But if you don't want to hear anything of even rumors about some plot details, get out now. We'll see you next week at that point. But for those sticking around, let's kind of talk about this. So this is also coming from Heavy Spoilers. And in a recent video he posted out there looking at how Jonathan Majors' Kang and his many variants will play into the multiverse blockbuster. He says his source was quick to emphasize that while this information remains accurate as far as they are concerned right now, things could change as the script is still being worked on and the final plot details are not nailed down yet. But fans are going to get an idea of where Marvel Studios is heading with this. He said just how Thanos was ultimately the main character of Avengers Infinity War, Majors Kang will be regarded as the star of this movie. It'll be the culmination of his journey. As part of that, the Kang Dynasty will uncover his Nathaniel Richards backstory, and moviegoers will see him conquering worlds across the multiverse. This will also include the first wave of Avengers attempt to take him down, but they will not be alone. Loki's He Who Remains will also be involved on the heroes team. However, he will just be known as Nathaniel this time around, as he is not the only one remaining yet. For him, this is the first time he's experiencing a multiverse shenanigans. And the amount of time Hawkins shenanigans that's going to go is going to be very crazy. And where this is going to be is, in King Dynasty, is placed to be the blockbuster crossover, the event. The amount of villains are going to be there. It's going to be crazy. But one of the things they're going to say is that, the Avengers are going to lose and lose badly absolutely bad, like as bad, if not worse, than Thanos' snap. And it'll end. Secret Wars will pick up, according to him, will pick up with them trying to salvage what's left of the multiverse heroes to go against Kang one more time, but they are going to be decimated, meaning we are probably going to lose a number of people that may not come back.
And on the extreme surface level, it does sound a little like Infinity War in the Endgame, but the execution is going to be the story, right? Like, you know, I don't remember what the line is, but there's only so many stories to tell anymore. Like, all the original stories have been done, and it's now just in the execution on how you do the specifics here. I do think it sounds really good. I think it sounds super interesting. Jonathan Majors, I'm really looking forward to Quantumania, largely to see what they do with him and to see more from him. I loved him in Loki episode 6, so getting to see more from him is going to be really, really cool. It ultimately, like, if this ends up not being true, okay, that's fine. But if it is this, it does sound really good. It sounds really good. Yes, again, a little bit of a similarity there to Infinity War, but it sounds really good. So if this is the story, I'm in. Like, of course I'm in, but I'm in.
Like I said, it's the actual King Dynasty was a conclusion of B6 and Perez's run that could have gone on longer. Like they ended it before, they ended it at a time, but it could have gone on longer. But man, it was very much one of those things that Kang showed his true what he could do and what he could do, and a man that we're going to be officially introduced to, because the Kang we are seeing in Quantumania is going to be the Kang we're going to see, that rumors are saying is true, is going to be the Kang we're going to see in Kang Dynasty. That is our Kang at that point. Doesn't mean we're not going to see other versions of Kang, because a lot of rumors are also painting to I'm thinking we might even see Kang in Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I could totally see something there. Not the major villain for it, but something Kang related. I think that would be very, very fitting.
And so to your point, like, the execution of Kang being much more throughout the next two phases better than how they did Thanos. Yes, I think they learned a lot of lessons with how Thanos was. But man, like you said, even if only some of this is true, there's nothing that's not getting me excited about this. I'm not getting paused. Like, again, some of this is going to be dropped by the wayside, but as long as you tell a quality, cohesive story with this craziness there, yeah. You already had my money. You're going to have my money a bunch of times if this is even close to this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
But, all right, well, it'll be fun to see this going. We will see you next week with hopefully a trailer for Across the Spider-Verse. See you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
They said it's coming out.
Yeah, okay, it's coming out at that point. But Sony, don't fool with us now. So we'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.